So let's talk about Squid Game. On the surface, yeah, it's this incredibly brutal, high-stakes survival thriller. But if you peel back just one layer, what you find underneath is maybe one of the most powerful and terrifying allegories for the world we're all living in right now. I mean, the whole show really boils down to this one simple question, right? Why on earth would hundreds of totally ordinary people willingly sign up to risk their lives playing a bunch of kids' games with, a fatal twist? And look, the simple answer, the one they dangle right in front of you, is the prize money. A truly insane 45.6 billion won. That is absolutely life-changing money, the kind of cash that could make anyone's problems just disappear. But that's really only half the story. So to really get it, you have to look at the reality behind that prize. In South Korea, where the show is set, household debt has hit this crushing level, 92% of the entire country's GDP. Think about that for a second. The average family owes almost as much as the whole nation produces in a year. So that desperation you see in the show, that's not some sci-fi concept. It is rooted in a very, very real debt crisis that has millions of people feeling completely trapped. And that desperation, that feeling of being trapped, it brings us to our first big idea here, the powerful, and I mean powerful, illusion of choice. The show is basically asking, when all your options are terrible, is the freedom to choose really freedom at all? There's that incredible scene, right? The players actually get what they want. They vote, and the majority agrees to end the game. Bam! They're all set free. But then what happens? The reality they go back to, it's even more terrifying than the game itself. And guess what? Almost every single one of them chooses to go back. And that just forces you to ask this really uncomfortable question. When you're staring down loan sharks, you've got medical bills piling up, you're stuck in inescapable poverty. Is your decision to go back to a death game, is that really a free choice? Well, there's actually a name for this. It's a concept called structural coercion. And the idea is that the system itself, the economy, the lack of a social safety net, is what's forcing your hand. It's not some bad guy holding a gun to your head. The pressure is coming from the structure of society itself. And it's just as real. And this is where the show just brilliantly draws a parallel to our own world, right? Capitalism, on paper, promises freedom. You're free to quit your job anytime you want. But what's the reality for most of us? The only other option is poverty. So just like in the game, the freedom to walk away just means walking right back into the very same crisis that pushed you there in the first place. All right, so that brings us to our second big point. The show argues it's not just about being trapped. Once you're inside the system, the whole nature of your work, your labor, gets twisted into this brutal, cutthroat competition. The big lie, the sales pitch for the game, is that it's fair. Everyone gets an equal shot. You all start on a level playing field. And hey, may the best person win, right? It's all about skill and luck. And that sounds a lot like the myth of meritocracy, doesn't it? The idea that anyone can get ahead if they just work hard enough. But it's a total manipulation, and it's all carefully designed. There's a real-world management strategy called gamification, and this is how it works. Step 1, you create a zero-sum game. For me to win, you have to lose. Step 2, you dangle these shiny rewards to motivate everyone. Step 3, you actively create conflict between people. And the most important part, step 4, you get everyone so hyper-focused on beating each other that they completely forget they're all being exploited by the people running the whole show. And don't think for a second this is just fiction. This stuff is happening right now, all around us. Think about Amazon. They track their warehouse workers' packing speed, literally pitting them against each other on a leaderboard. Or Uber, using these bonus missions to psychologically nudge drivers into staying on the road just a little bit longer. Even some banks have been caught monitoring their employees for slacking. I mean, doesn't that sound an awful lot like the red light, green light doll? So what's the end game here? What does all this gamification do? Well, it's brilliant in a sinister way. It turns workers against each other. Instead of looking around and seeing allies, people who are in the same boat, they see rivals. Instead of uniting to challenge the system that's exploiting all of them, they're kept busy fighting each other for the scraps. Which, leads us to an even darker question. If the players are just pawns, busy fighting each other, then who is this whole game really for? So let's peel back that final, most disturbing layer, suffering as spectacle. Because as you're watching, you slowly start to get this sinking feeling that the 456 contestants fighting for their lives, they aren't the only ones in the game.
Which begs the real question, right? Who is actually playing this game?
And then we get this absolutely bone-chilling answer from the old man, the founder of the game. It wasn't about giving people a fair shot. It wasn't some noble experiment. The reason they created it, he says, we got together and wondered, what could we do to have some fun? It was just for fun, a cure for the boredom of the ultra-rich. So the whole game is revealed to be the sick, twisted humanity experiment. For the wealthy VIPs lounging around, watching from above, the player's desperation isn't some tragedy, it's a product. Their struggle is something to be consumed as entertainment. Human suffering becomes the ultimate luxury good.
Okay, wow. So, when you're faced with that horrifying truth, is resistance even possible? How in the world do you stop a game that you are literally forced to play? And this brings us to our final, crucial section, breaking the cycle.
You know, when you think about it, there are a couple of classic ways people try to fight a corrupt system, but they usually fail. First, there's withdrawal. You can just refuse to play. But in a game like this, that just makes you a loser by default. Then there's the other path, dominance. You can try to master the game, beat everyone, and win. But all that does is reinforce the crooked rules of the game for everyone else. But what's so interesting is that Squid Game offers a third, much more radical possibility. You don't walk away and you don't just try to win. You have to stop the game by playing it, but on your own terms. And this is just perfectly captured by our hero, Sang Gi-hoon. At the end, after he's won it all, he doesn't just take his money and disappear. He makes the choice to go back, not to play again, not to win again, but to expose and destroy the entire system from the inside out. So his new strategy is all about subversion. He's not just a player anymore, he's a saboteur. He's going to use his inside knowledge of the rules to exploit the system's weaknesses, right? And his goal is to expose the whole game as a lie for everyone to see. By refusing to play that final move, getting on the plane, he breaks the game's core logic. He proves that real victory isn't about winning the prize, it's about ending the game for everyone. And that leaves us with this one last, pretty provocative thought that kind of brings it all back home. If we are all, in one way or another, players in these huge systems that we didn't create and we don't really control, what does it actually take to stop playing by the rules?